Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is episode number 100. 100. I feel like we need to have applause and shouting and everything else. This is amazing. Yeah. How are you feeling at 100?
I'm feeling like I should do it at 100. Still recovering from the joys of IALPA, but also trying to recover after 100 episodes of this.
Yeah, certainly. So, given that, right, we got to start it off the same way here. How are you going to change my mind this time?
Well, have I changed your mind after 100 issues? What is my batting average been like? How on the ball have we been, do you think?
Oh man, I mean, I think that we have certainly. I think that some of the discussions have changed my mind on things. There's no question about that. I think a lot of things were fairly closely aligned, in some areas. So, a lot of the things that we talk about here. But man, I hope so. I hope people's minds have been changed. I mean, that's really the goal. And sometimes, we're pushing. You're maybe pushing the boundaries, right, to get people to think about things differently. And so, yeah, I've really appreciated the thought-provoking way that we start this thing off every time.
Well, maybe at 200 we should do a poll of the top contentious subjects. But one of the ones that we have touched upon, which suddenly reared its ugly head during IALPA, was kiddie casinos. And I heard from a number of sources now that their operations were being questioned about the skill level of their cranes and the skill level of their redemption products. So for my crystal ball next year, I think we will be talking a lot more about that subject, let alone some of the other subjects that we've touched upon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think especially as we've seen the new wave cranes and the crane operations and the way that they're thinking about that from like almost a retailing standpoint and merchandising standpoint, definitely does bring up some of those skill level questions for sure.
It's something that was inevitable, that especially when we're at a period where everybody's paying closer attention to their disposable income spend on entertainment, that they want value for money and they also don't want to be fleeced.
Indeed.
Anyway, 100 and a new look, and let us jump into the technology.
Let's do it.
And first, the economy. And one of those subjects of the economy has been the impact. Now, this is an interesting, shall we say, domino effect. We've seen a massive increase in random access memory, RAM, prices. They've just gone through the roof. And RAM is an essential component of the PC side of the business, as well as the gaming console side of the business, as well as, in some cases, smart devices and electronics. But predominantly, we are seeing a vast increase in the pricing for this application for console usage, which will see the increase in the Sony and the Xbox console prices over the holiday period. We have also seen an increase of static RAM for the PC sector, so that has an impact on new developments. The brand new Valve Gabe box, or the Steam box that is being developed, is going to have to be a lot higher than the industry was expecting, which has caused vibrations through the market. But from our industry, we are also quite a large user of RAM, and this will indirectly or directly have an increase in the price of the PCs that go into powering all aspects of the video amusement, redemption, and attraction market. quite concerning. Just another kick in the genitalia regarding the increases in prices. And I already was hearing at IALPA the rumblings and grumblings about the increase in pricing for hardware across the market.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that is concerning. I mean, because we have RAM in virtually any computing device, even if it's a small bit of, we think of RAM as maybe in sticks that you would put into a PC, but RAM sits in on other like smaller circuit boards as well, right? I mean, it's a storage device, and historically the prices have gone down and down and down for more and more, right? Like Moore's law has been very much
Yes.
applied to RAM as well as to CPUs and GPUs. But supply and demand, you can't go against those market pressures either, and will drive up costs for consumers, and it'll drive up costs for us as well in the everything that we have to buy for our centers, and then ultimately we're going to have to drive up costs for our guests.
And sadly, we can lay this problem at AI's doorstep, because the reason why there's a drive to get your hands on RAM in the tech sector is to power the server systems that are running all of the AI. So all of that lake boiling, electricity sucking technology is also needed to be powered by as much RAM as possible. AI is really kicking us in the lower extremities, shall we say, when it comes to the economy.
Indeed.
Moving away from the economy side of the business and looking at the biz, and we told you so has come to pass. The situation happened just the day I was getting on the plane for IALPA, that Callaway decided to take a deal with a private equity firm that they have links with to sell off the Topgolf operation to them. Callaway still retaining, I'm led to believe, a 40% stake in the operation, though I'm not sure if that's a board level stake or if that's a revenue return. The most important part about this is the major hit that's been taken. They're selling it to an investment firm for 1.1 billion, but in reality, back in 2021, Callaway acquired Topgolf for 2.6 billion. So, questions about where has 1.5 billion gone, I think would be the first question, closely followed by some other questions that haven't been answered, like, is this also going to include the sale of Topgolf swing suites as part of the deal? And how much is the private equity firm going to give abilities for the current board of Topgolf to continue operating as they are, or are they going to look for a root and branch C-suite change?
Yeah, I mean, look, even if you consider the fact that they're retaining a 40% stake, 60% of 2.6 billion is, just under 1.6 billion. And so they're still taking a $500 million haircut on, their original purchase price from 4 years ago, and, or nearly 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
and so one would presume, given all of the building, like how many times we talk about a new Topgolf opening, they are opening new Topgolfs at least once every other month that we've seen, if not more frequently than that. And you would think that with all of that happening, that they would have actually been able to increase the value. And so this is right in line with what we have been saying for really the last 2 years almost. That I'm surprised actually that it took this long for somebody to come along and take this off of Callaway's hands.
Yeah, they've been trying to wash their hands of it. I alluded to the previous surprise departure of the CEO at Topgolf may have had something to do with a failed possible white knight. For Callaway to go to a private equity firm sounds like you've encouraged someone to do that. During discussions about the Topgolf situation in Orlando, a colleague of mine pointed out to me to go away and do a little bit more research on a particular piece of information he'd been given, which was, of all of the Topgolf venues in the world, the UK venues had actually seen quite an increase in their sale-on-sale profit sector and their spend per site. And he was right. The UK was one of the few silver linings, shall we say, in the crown of the Topgolf operation, which was looking at some very dubious returns on investment. That said, it was also interesting to point out that the UK Topgolf facilities are the ones, at least one of them, has been configured to include an arcade component, as well as trying to include secondary entertainment. You know, the one thing that always strikes all of us is why there isn't a Topgolf facility that has a swing suite bay operation inside it. It just seems basic. We do know Topgolf experimented with the arcade with a partnership with Bandai Namco. We know that they experimented with opening up a mini golf. And again, sources are suggesting that if the new C-suite comes in, the first job will be to improve the entertainment split and spend, and also take a very hard look at exactly what they're trying to offer for their value for money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always blown my mind that they have built such amazing, beautiful facilities just for driving ranges, right? And no other mix of attractions whatsoever. And when you think people go to a driving range, typically at a golf course, they practice their drives, and then they go and they practice their putting, and then they can do some chipping, and they can do all those things. And I understand that Topgolf's MO was to gamify the driving range experience, make it more social and competitive. They were on the leading edge of that social competition venues, and I understand that was their main focus. But at the same time, when they start selling memberships with the expectation that people are coming in to practice their swing, you would think that they would even add in the other elements that would actually help people improve their overall golf game if they wanted to stay exclusively focused on golf.
I think they're going to have to really address the elephant in the room, and it may be painful for some of them to admit that they're in the entertainment business rather than just in the golf business. But again, once the dust settles on this positioning stake, we will get to see the new look, because they're under a very short leash here. They can't sit around on their laurels. Talking about can't sit around on their laurels, our friends at Six Flags have, surprise, surprise, parachuted in a brand new chief executive officer, who I'm also led to believe is bringing some officers of their own liking to the board, restructuring aplenty. I think this is the phrase lighting a fire under their bums to try and address situation that Six Flags Entertainment has got themselves in. They've mired themselves since the merger acquisition, and now the brand new CEO comes in with a fire lit under his derriere, and I expect we will also be hearing some announcements of some restructuring, not just of executives, but also maybe the separation of certain venues that are under their watch that were still hanging around, but people feel that need to be let go of to try and slim down the operation and focus on moving forward after creating such a whale of a chain.
Yeah, this might actually be the thing that turns Six Flags around. We know that so much of this is driven by the leadership that's there, but he comes with an amazing pedigree. Really phenomenal pedigree, right? He was most recently the CEO over at Palace Entertainment. He was an interim at SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment as their CEO and COO, and has had lots of experience in many other places as well. So anyway, I mean, he's run big, large organizations. He's helped with turnarounds, and hopefully Six Flags, Cedar Fair, like they will be able to have a leader that can take them to the next 10, 20 years, even though he will likely just be a temporary CEO for the next, few years.
I believe he's an interim CEO, a safe pair of hands, while some hard decisions and some painful decisions are made. What should have been made with the merger he will be able to cut the cloth and not feel that he's in a position of danger. At the same time, he will be able to change the C-suite's mentality without the need of investors threatening legal action. But again, we wish him a lot of luck. He comes with a pedigree, as you said, but this is a daunting task to take on board. Daunting task to take on board, Ubisoft. Ubisoft has a lot of involvement for us in the location-based entertainment industry. I will be talking about Ubisoft again later on in the technology side of our sound off, but it seems that Tencent has gone for a pick a mix approach rather than buying Ubisoft lock, stock and barrel and adding it to the vast network of AAA publishers and developers that Tencent has under its belt. It's actually forced Ubisoft to parcel their core IP assets into a operation, a new studio operation, and that as a division of Ubisoft will be retained by Tencent, which they're paying for. So it's sort of like put the money in the bag and I won't point the gun at you anymore. What happens next, of course, with Ubisoft is that they have a major cloud hanging over them with legal action regarding how their C-suite has been behaving over the last few years, with very nasty claims of how they've been treating staff, female staff, as well as an attitude that was toxic within the structure, as well as a failure to be able to maintain their high-level IP to release successful series. Now, with this operation in a new, let's say a new infrastructure, the hope is that we'll get a breath of fresh air, that the franchises will be able to breathe, because, as I'll state on later, those franchises are incredibly valuable at the moment.
It's an interesting play by both Tencent and Ubisoft to
Yes.
be able to bring in investment, but also have Tencent feel like they're a little bit protected from the overall issues that they're dealing with.
It kind of puts it into perspective that we're talking about 1.6 billion euros. It kind of gives you an inkling of what $1.1 billion will get you for a Topgolf operation. But again, how important these IPs are beyond just the sales asset price is very telling in this transmedia market that we're living in. Moving to the tech, as it were, and some of this will touch upon IAL, but I'm going to go into the detail of the trends of IALPA later. But I just wanted to touch on some of the top flowing business that was worth note from the tech positioning. We saw the pivot by a major, what I would call media attractions company, into the competitive socializing sector. So I was the one waving the flag at the back, even though I missed the press announcement. Ernest, I'm sorry. He made it very clear to me when we met up afterwards. My absence was noted. That's kind of him to say, but he walked me through to get a better handle on what's going on here. And there are three key announcements of products that are being developed by Triotech. This is the largest number of new releases that the company has made, has revealed at an IALPA in its history. The first is what the Energize, for me, is their interpretation of the Cube, or the arcade arena, or even what's our friends at Conductor called their Cube?
The arena. It's literally the arena.
All right, yeah. Either way, this is a LED floored, interactive, with some wall attachments cube that you are closed within with a group of people. We have seen examples of this. I I actually use the example of the Cube in the UK, both in Manchester and London, as the gold standard of what you can achieve with this kind of approach. It's very compelling, and it also offers an audience experience. Next is crazy carts, and it sounds like it says on the tin what it is. Rumor has it that Triotech tried to establish a closer relationship with battle carts. For various reasons, technology-based as well as business-based, they couldn't establish that. And so Triotech has decided to go down the path of developing their own projection-mapped electric cart system. And it was also made clear to me that the cart that was on the booth at the show was a placeholder. That isn't actually the final design of the system that they're going to be using. And then the weird one for me out of the three is what they're calling electric fun fair. It is fundamentally a traditional fun fair game experience, but incorporating multimedia with LED screens supporting what you would usually see as the ball toss into bin kind of game experience, or the down the clown type of experience as an attraction, but pivoted very heavily to be supported by media, what I would call a phygital environment. It is clear that these new attractions are pivoting towards proven formulas in competitive socializing. The fun fair is clearly fair games. The Energize is the Cube, and Crazy Carts is Battle Carts, or Chaos Carts, or one of the other projection cart systems. But they are leveraging themselves into competitive socializing, being available as an off-the-shelf system, as well as one other thing. And I'll touch upon that in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is really interesting pivot, and I think I would almost call it a pivot, frankly. It's the very rarely do you see any company come out with a product that is orthogonal to their core business, but when they come up with three at the same time, this tells you that something is the wheels on the wagon are wobbling based on their core product offering, and so they feel like the real need to introduce very quickly things into the sector in which the overall entertainment experience is moving to. Less sitting and consuming and viewing a screen and maybe shooting at screens, and more interactivity, social competition, social play, etc. And I think they see this, it's similar to what we talked about at the LBX show in our Apple debrief just a couple of days ago, where you're seeing all these laser tag companies, these legacy companies that have been building these laser tag systems for decades, are now introducing new products as well. Now they happen to be replicating each other's products, unfortunately, instead of really trying to develop something new, like Lasertron has done with their crazy darts and crazy arrows and axe throwing. But to see Triotech make this type of shift or pivot is really interesting. It would have been great to have seen something a little bit more tactical from them at this show versus just an announcement. But I feel like they probably needed to get out in front of everything else that people were going to see at the show to at least put their toe in the water, or grab their slice of pizza before somebody made buying decisions with somebody else and one of their competitors.
The IALPA organization has kind of been shy to admit to the situation regarding competitive socializing as a possible entrant into the market. And I'm an old enough bunny to have been around the IALPA show to see corporations in one sector pivot or shift, as you say, into others. This reminds me very much of the shift from passive attractions that use projection based to the migration to interactive attractions, and the addition of gamification or media based attractions. We can definitely say that this is not the only major name that is going to be announcing a suite of competitive socializing elements to them. And I wouldn't be surprised if the IALPA committee is forced to actually consider having a competitive socializing component to the makeup of next year's show. Just compiling our coverage of IALPA this year, the number of competitive socializing products and providers there, outnumbered the VR considerably, and outnumbered, I would argue in some cases, the media-based attractions. But again, an interesting move by Triotech, and for a particular reason. But again, we'll come back to that in a minute. As I said, virtual reality wasn't as prevalent at the IALPA show compared to the pivot towards mixed reality, where we had a number of companies presenting mixed reality products as the innovative next step, the obvious next step in the evolution of this technology. I picked our friends at AllStation because they were kind of a surprise outlier. A Chinese company that has been running at least 7 facilities in China using their mixed reality, not augmented reality, mixed reality, because it's pass-through rather than see-through technology. And they're using a Rolls Royce to drive you around the park. We're seeing that $3,000 plus Apple Vision Pro headset being used as their everyday drive for the guests that come to their facility. Speaking to the team, we were led to believe that AllStations is the largest purchaser of Apple Vision Pros in China for their venues. And if you do the maths in your head, if just one of your venues has about 20 Apple Vision Pros, then it's a good reason to turn up with a sock over your head and a gun in your hand to take them away. I mean, this is a lot of money, not something I think most operators would jump into, having a $3,000 headset in the hands of consumers, especially the Rolls Royce of mixed reality headsets. But I can attest to the quality of the experience that was achievable using this high-level technology.
It was a good experience. We didn't talk about it actually on the show, on the show review on the OVX show. It was a good experience. They were doing some really interesting things that I think it was definitely the highest fidelity experience that I've seen from the mixed reality so far. I would have appreciated, and again, this is a demo. Okay, so it's a demo to show off what the thing can do with the capabilities. They talked about being able to do custom content as well on their platform, so that's interesting. But I would have liked more gameplay, and I think that's one of the things that I appreciated about. Oh my gosh, I'm going
Dream Park.
What? Sorry, yeah, Dream Park. Thank you. I was going to say 2-Bit Circuits, but no, about Dream Park. Is that at least there was some interesting gameplay and interactivity, where A Stations things were just, you could really just view and look around, and as more edutainment and experiential. But again, super high fidelity, and be interesting to see where they go.
I'll touch upon this again later about the mixed reality that was at the show, but I agree with you that A Station are going to have to show their A game regarding what you get for your money, because the novelty value will wear off very quickly with this. And I wouldn't be surprised that they're going to be eating through a lot of content. So their ability to turn around content. All in all, the key thing here is that AllStation came to IALPA to announce their leasing, their franchise leasing capabilities, where you can buy their platform and pay a royalty, and you can utilize dead space within your location to be a mixed reality, either a dinosaur experience or a zombie experience or a ninja experience. I only got to do the ninja and the dinosaur. You actually got to do the zombie side, if I remember.
Yeah, and that actually had a really interesting mechanic in which you could hold up the shield with one hand, and then you kind of activate these knives essentially, or like swords that kind of fly at the zombies. And it was a really interesting way to play with the hands without having to hold anything in my hands as well, and had some interesting mechanics with it. But but yeah, again, it's another zombie shooter, and like I don't think the world needs another zombie shooter, even if they had an interesting way to shoot the zombies.
You better get value for money, or else this will be a one and done. And for the type of points that we're talking about, as well as this company not coming from a true background in theme park experiences and attractions, this is going to be quite a proof of confidence that this is a viable business model. Talking about viable business models, and M&A was deep at it during IALPA. Our friends at HeroZone continued their world domination tour after acquiring the assets of Spree for their arena-based VR children's content. They have now partnered in an acquisition merger agreement with Phenomena. Phenomena will be familiar to some of our audience through their VR esports arena platform, one of the many VR arena systems that are out there. Another one bites the dust, and as HeroZone gets a little bit bigger, it moves itself now to the top of the largest operator of VR arena systems, just by the number of install base. They had at the show the chance for us to try their Terminator Salvation VR multiplayer free roam game experience. It was in I would argue, a 95 or even an 89% complete state. It was very good. It was very fun. It was very compelling, but it was missing certain game hooks that I would advise clients to add to any VR experience. Whether this was added to or taken away by having such a well-known IP attached to it, I would argue the game was a good experience, and it showed the skill set of HeroZone. And one thing about the acquisitions and the continued growth of HeroZone is that the ability to have more customers under one umbrella creates something we felt for some time is needed in the VR market, which is stability and a one platform rules them all kind of approach. And if that can gain momentum, then we can be on a much more stable footing, because at the moment VR is feeling a little bit of the growing pains in the consumer sector as well as in the location-based entertainment sector.
I feel like this was something that we had, not to do too much of like a patting ourselves on the back, but this is another prediction we had made even earlier this year, maybe, or late last year, sometime around. It wasn't, maybe it was a full year ago, but there was a lot of, there were so many different VR companies, and we had predicted that there would be a roll up coming soon. Either we see VR companies shutter their doors because they're unsustainable, or that there would be a roll up, or both. And we are seeing that, and HeroZone is the one that stepped to the forefront to begin to roll these up. And look, the more that you do this, we've seen this with Genda, the more that you acquire more and you gain more revenue, gain more users, the more opportunities you have to scoop up more and continue to get bigger. And I think we'll continue to see that with HeroZone. I don't think they're done yet.
No, they're not done yet. I was joking with the team about my private list of companies that they should go for. I'm not going to give them free consultancy, but there are a number of VR companies out there that are vulnerable to acquisition. At the time of attending IALPA, I was informed of at least 2 VR arcade facilities, one a chain, the other one one a chain of 4 facilities, one a chain of 2 that had gone to the wall, fallen into liquidation. We will talk about those in the next open and shut, but it kind of underlines what you're alluding to, that we had seen the writing on the wall that there was a coming change. How that writing manifests itself, will this be acquisition and merger, misery likes company, or will this be cold hard liquidation and then acquisition of assets post-mortem, is the question. And if I was involved in the investment community, I wouldn't be so keen to pick up other people's debts so quickly unless I could see that there was a going concern here, because there's a a fourth or even a fifth possibility here that we're going to see in the transition in the VR and the MR market of a brand new group of clean-shirted investors and evangelists and developers turning up and really wanting to distance themselves from the previous phase, which I like to call phase 4 or 5 of virtual reality application in location-based entertainment, and they will want to be treated as new skins, as clean to this market with brand new ideas and not held back by the baggage. But again, we're in a period now where it's not about the technology, it's now about the revenue generation. Moving on, and that merger and acquisition or that closer affiliation takes hold. I've actually had the pleasure of doing some consultancy for both Hero Zone as well as for Ubisoft Escape Games in the early period of the adoption of VR. A little known location-based entertainment operation, Ubisoft Escape Games, where they created 3 core VR escape experiences based on Ubisoft property. We were talking earlier about Ubisoft being important to the mix here in location-based entertainment, and following IALPA, we had Ubisoft showing their brand new successor to Virtual Rabbids, and then in the news we had the announcement regarding SpawnPoint, who are another player in the VR free roaming arena sector with a considerable number of installations out there, looking towards maximizing their content availability. Some companies make their own content, other companies are now acquiring available content to add to their list and being able to port, as it were, the Ubisoft Escape Games content onto your platform and add that to the list of properties that you can circulate through the platform is a big bonus here. And I think it caught a lot of companies off guard because this is a continuation of that consolidation of the market, less individual companies and more closer affiliations that share under a common pot. Moving on, and another aspect that I wanted to touch upon here is the sudden explosion of LED displays at the show. We will talk a little bit about that later, but my main point of bringing this one up was regarding what happened to me near the end of the show. I was very lucky to be invited to private screenings off the show floor of new generation LED screens, theatre-sized screens for flying theatres, for 4D theatre or 8D theatre experiences, as well as for new kinds of immersive enclosure systems. This was a major departure, and again, I'd like to thank those at Craftworks for the opportunity to see this. The demonstrations actually happened at Falcon's Creatives warehouses just down the road from the Orlando Convention Center. And I got a chance to see what for me is one of the best 3D LED displays systems that I'd ever had the pleasure to see at a price point that isn't higher than the projection alternative. So we've got to that point now where the projection industry must be a little bit concerned about what they've got left in their warehouses compared to the flexibility, capabilities, and now the opportunities that LED displays have to offer. Think of it from this point of view. I was watching what would be called a dark ride experience, similar to a Ratatouille kind of experience, that normally would need to have 2 or 3 projectors to achieve its 3D imagery for an audience. This kind of technology means that you have to wear passive glasses, the usual polarized glasses, but the one problem with 3D projection experiences is they're a lot darker than
Mhm.
just having a single projector, because the Polaroid glasses darkens the vision, and also the need for the convergence for the 3D effect to work properly also impacts the, so we say, the shine of the experience. But with these LED systems, the brightness was turned to the max, the darks were dark, the lights were light, and it was extremely compelling. And while the technology physically may not change greatly, you're removing projectors and replacing them with the requirements of an LED. The experiences will now pop much more under this tutelage. So it's a double whammy here. We can go back and look at the existing projection attractions and now replace them, domes, as well as curved screens, as well as flat screens, with LED. But there's also a possibility that this could be an impetus for the projection industry for a kick in their pants and a chance for them to up their game to stay competitive. So from my point of view, seeing this technology was heartening, because I'm now seeing the next trend in immersive technologies. Many of our followers will know I'm a big proponent for LEDs, large display systems. But from another point of view, I think the outlook for media-based attractions just got a lot brighter.
Yeah, absolutely. And way to reference the brighter there. That was nice. That was a nice way to close that out. But when you're beginning to see even the shifts, like we talked about at the show, or on our show a couple of days ago, the shifts to LED interactivity. So inside of these immersive enclosures, so you have Conductor's Arena, you have Moment Factory's augmented games floor, you've got the Vex Party Dash, that all have this interactive LED component that is so much more visually appealing than, frankly, I love the gameplay that Cubix has, but I think Cubix is going to need, by InnoWise, is going to need to think about doing LED panels now instead of their projection mapping. I think they're absolutely going to have to consider that, because it is just, you have to be in a dark room. It has to be dark in order to see it. There's a number of reasons why the LED panels are just so much better. And you're beginning to see the projector companies like, Christie, for example, making the shift from projection to LED paneling. They have their core series, and they've got their micro tiles as well. And so they're really moving into the LED paneling and LED walls component. And I think they're seeing the writing on the walls at that level, and having to make that shift away from their projectors.
It was interesting, or very telling, that Christie was the only major projector company, or I would argue also LED company at the show. No Panasonic, no Barco, no Sony, no Samsung. That said, the simulation show, the military simulation and training show that takes place directly after IALPA at the same venue, will have a number of the projection companies there, because they know that they still can find a home for their business in the commercial simulation sector. But the clock is ticking here regarding how far we move to the next generation of immersive display. VR being used in some interesting areas. We saw sportainment being employed as a possible platform for VR. Now we've got fighting. I think it's Pacific Rim writ large now. I forget the name of the Hugh Jackman film where they were having fighting robots. It didn't do too well in the cinemas, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. I don't think I ever actually saw that movie. Yeah.
Anyway, that premise is now available. We have the REK, which is kind of, they want to be Ultimate Fight Championship, and they've got some robot fighting taking place, where people wearing head-mounted displays can control their robots and knock each other out for, well, at least it's a less bloodied experience than the normal Ultimate Cage match. For me, it's interesting. We've already been concerned about products that were told to be robots and autonomous actually turning out to be telepresence. teleoperated. Now we have teleoperated robots able to do things that hopefully humans don't have to do. It's one to watch as a sport, and I wouldn't be surprised that we see VR controlled robots being used in sports and entertainment. Again, if you're in the mascot business for the theme parks, I wouldn't be surprised to see the future mascots being a robot with someone maybe miles away, telepresence steering them around the park.
Yeah, and by the way, it's Real Steel. So I
Real
looked it up.
Steel.
The movie was Real Steel, released in 2011, and actually, not a bad rating. So I haven't seen it, but yeah, it seems like it would be. I think it's maybe somewhat compelling. I mean, to see robots bash each other to pieces. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I love. Oh my gosh, and now I'm going blank on the name, but the where you build these crazy robot contraptions and they like try to
Robot
chop
Wars.
each other into pieces. What is it?
Robot Wars.
Thank you. Okay, it's on the nose. Robot Wars. Loved watching those shows, partially because the announcers are absurd. But
Yes.
look, we like to see that, so why wouldn't we like to see this as well?
I think it's got opportunities, it's got legs, as it were, and it also leads into applications into the entertainment scene in our side of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, one of the things that we've been having to do recently is take stock of where things are, and it is nearly, well, I suppose on the head, it's 10 years that has separated the boom of this latest phase of interest in consumer VR that has led also into location-based entertainment VR application to where we are now. And the question, the navel gazing has to be, where have we come? Where are we going? Based upon the consumer sector, it is fascinating to think that the first machines that I was looking at of this latest phase were homebrew kits by a Kickstarter startup and a R&D project by Valve. Valve had thrown some of their megabucks that they make off of Steam at a pet project run by Gabe, or influenced by Gabe Newell. And we had something called the VR room that used the latest panel technology that was available at the time with a very unique tracking system, and they created the VR room. And back in 2015, 16, I was lucky enough to sort of see this and sort of rub the chin and go, it looks like VR could make it this time. Jump forwards now 10 years, and yet again, Valve just released their latest interpretation of what they see VR as being. And to be blunt, they have produced a consumer version of the promise that they showed 10 years ago. So I suppose you could say, wait 10 years, you need to get the tech. Whether the market is still enthusiastic enough to pay the money to have this VR interpretation, we will have to wait and see, especially as we still don't know the price that they're going to be charging. As it is clear that Meta, even though they dominate the market, subsidizing their machines incredibly, have not really achieved the numbers they want. And I'm led to believe that even Samsung and the launch of their brand new XR platform, you see, rather than focusing on VR, but looking at the MR as well as the VR market, they're not seeing the response from their market. So is this 10-year gap the swan song? Are we going to then see maybe the niche return to this and the mainstream gloss pulled back a bit, and we're going to have to wait maybe another 10 years for the next revolution in immersive display technology? I'm banking on LBE still using VR and headsets, maybe moving away from pure VR towards other kinds of applications. But I'm also very interested what a phygital environment using LED displays will offer. No hair muss, no makeup problems, no sim sickness. The ability for the same group of people to see the same experience within an immersive environment that is of a higher fidelity than can be achieved on a headset display or on a projected display is something that emboldens me for our future.
Yeah, completely agree with everything you said. And yeah, I have always and continue to struggle with VR's application at the location. Not that you can't create and shouldn't create really good, compelling VR-based experiences for LBE, but for the very reasons you said about the hair mussing, makeup smearing, etc. When people are typically going out, they want to experience things with their friends and their family, and they're sometimes dolled up and they don't want to, and both the men and the men and the women are dolled up and they don't want to mess that up and have that experience. And so anyway, it gets in the way of the guest experience, I think, in some ways, unless you're going there exclusively to do VR and knowing that that is going to be happening, and that you are going to have hair that has been compressed for 45 minutes or whatever. So yeah,
as well as the obvious hygiene aspects, of course, but
yeah.
And
throughput and everything else, right? That VR, the downsides of VR. There's a lot of really interesting upsides, but those are certainly the downsides that impact the overall guest experience and the revenue you can make from it. And it's finding that balance. All right. Well, coming up after the quick break, we will dive into the trends in AI. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Right, and straight into the trending AI side. And there's only really one that I wanted to jump on, really from IL, but there were a number of products that were claiming to be incorporating AI elements, but I couldn't really nail down exactly what AI elements they had, how much of this was hype and how much of this was reality. But our friends at Embed have incorporated AI now into their cashless business management solution, as it were. I'm waiting to get my hands on this to actually see how the AI interfaces, but it is that kind of use of AI as a smoothing agent between the human interface and the data that you want to put in front of the customer. That seems to be one of the prominent applications of where AI really works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have Roller's on the next slide, but Roller also introduced their IQ system that is AI driven to take and analyze all of the data that Roller as a point of sale is coming in. And so, yes, I think we're going to continue to see more of these large systems that have lots and lots of data points coming together, or using AI to bring that data together and be able to do analysis on it that a standard reporting engine isn't going to be able to do. Hopefully help glean insights, be able to ask questions of your data and get answers back. And I think that's where we see Embed going with this. And that's certainly what Roller's intentions are with their IQ system.
So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I didn't include the Roller slide here. I didn't include Apple Industries, who also are talking about AI being used in their new ID card photo booth system. I didn't include Photo Me, who say that AI is being used in their their photo capture drawing bots toy, and I didn't include our friends at Doff Robotics because I was surprised after the interest and success of their AI-powered photo booth system. It hadn't really progressed that much since what we saw last year that was on the show booth this year. But the melting pot is that this AI segment of Sound Off is going to have some life in it still, for good or bad.
And to be clear, it's like, obviously there's all like the AI photo things, but it's like Apple and Doff, and again, there's a lot of the AI photo generators out there, and I saw even a couple of other generics on the floor from China as well. But I was more referring to the big data analysis, the AI and the power that AI can do to now like evaluate and analyze and drive insights around your large amounts of data that was previously unable to do.
I'm really keen when I get back into operation side of our investigation that we have to do for our consultancy to look at creating an AI agent to act as a events and operations manager and see how well it can collect data, because that's the whole point. What the large language model machines, it's you feed in a lot of Lego bricks and it can sort them for you. It doesn't matter if it's going to sort them in the right color or not. It can sort them out, and then it's up to you to take that data and run with it. And that's something that I think we all in operations, at the back of the house, need to be aware of. And of course, the dangers of these AI systems and these smart technologies spoiling all the water, eating all the RAM, and screwing over all the bandwidth, they can also go wrong. And we've had now our third major outage since the lovely AWS problems. We've now had the chat GPT go down. People were wandering bleary-eyed out of their houses, able to actually communicate with the real world now that they didn't have to depend on X or their chat GPT waifu. I was expecting this to happen while I was in the air. I seriously, as soon as I was getting on the plane, I said, all right, what major disaster is going to take place that's not going to allow me to get to IALPA? And I was pleasantly surprised when the machine touched down, the big silver bird touched down in Orlando, and a slightly inebriated Kevin staggered through the customs control. But only to find out the next day that the whole of social media for some people had exploded. We haven't been given really much detail regarding this latest failing. The important component in the structure that failed this time was Cloudflare, kind of a name that is a warning in itself. Anyway. I'm led to believe that yet again it's a bad piece of code put through the system, not checked properly, and allowed to migrate across the whole platform before the grown-ups actually saw that there was a problem. Either way, this is now 3 times that we've had this. 4 if you include a Microsoft outage a year ago. I am concerned that we all need to come up with a more practical backup solution for when this type of stuff happens. I don't have the answers to what that backup could be. A soft landing capability where you're not faced with a dead page, but you're faced with a please wait, rescuers are on the way kind of approach for this kind of technology, especially as it is so vital to our retail as well as our social activities.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting when this went down. We didn't know at first that the entire, most of the major platforms were down, but it also impacted IntelliPlay. It impacted Roller and Aluvi, and those were just some of the others like actually on the show floor. And this happened Tuesday morning, right before the show floor was ready to open, and we're all freaking out because like our products aren't working and we won't be able to do demos, etc. And we all had meetings booked, and But then again, then we looked and was okay, this is the entire internet is basically
It's
experiencing
not.
this issue. It wasn't just us. And part of it is the fact that the internet as a whole, and many of these companies are super reliant on Cloudflare's product. They play a pivotal and an essential role in delivering the security and the performance for most of these websites out there. So they really do have a strong role in blocking malicious traffic. They stop hacks all the time. They stop DDoS attacks all the time. And so they're really important. It's one of the reasons why the IntelliPlay system is built on top of Cloudflare's security system, and why all the other point of sale systems that were there have done the same thing. But when they go down, then it can impact your business if you're using one of any of these tools that are running on top of something like Cloudflare. So definitely something to just be aware of and keep an eye out. But this isn't the first outage that Cloudflare has had. Now, they got it back up and running pretty quickly, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen again.
Belt and braces, it would be nice to be able to support 2 of these systems, but as we've seen vulnerability across 3 of these infrastructure systems, then it doesn't bode well. And it was kind of interesting to see the first hour of the show opening where I was assuming that the problems that I was coming across on people's booths were the usual Orlando Convention Center routing problems, turned out to be international. That said, the Wi-Fi on the show floor was appalling. You really do need to buy that Ethernet if you're running demonstrations that are dependent on smooth connectivity. Now, I've tried to condense, I think it's better to say I have concentrated my thoughts from finalizing the coverage of IALPA. It was a monster to get it into the Stinger report. I've just putting the final touches to this multi-issue. It's usually about 4 or 5 issues we do to cover the whole of the IALPA week, as it were. And it's nice to be able to sort of condense that thought and that writing and just use this as a talking point about the key trends that we saw, and maybe give a little bit of a pivot on why we're calling these trends of importance for the industry looking towards 2026, 2027. Now, the first one I've alluded to already, which is our friends at Triotech pivoting, but also our friends at DOF Robotics have pivoted. And now not everybody who's watching this will be fully aware of these announcements. They are still treated a little bit under embargo, and the full details can't be discussed here yet. But one of the reasons why Triotech has pivoted so hard into competitive socializing is not just because they see that is the future of the market, but also that the company is looking to open its own facility. So we are now moving into a stage where rather than buy the milk, you own your own cow, as it were, and recurring revenues and possibly creating a location-based entertainment facility kind of is attractive. Selling to yourself. If you jump in the time machine with me and go back to the 1980s, I'll run away and find a pub. But after I come back, I would point to you what would be happening in the Japanese market at that point in time, where the Japanese amusement manufacturers were beginning to think, why are we selling to amusement operators when we could be running the game ourselves? We could be selling to ourselves and having the machines operated. And that business has proven incredibly successful for these companies over the years. Some of them have given up on making the games and just continued on operation. Here for Triotech, the opening of a flagship facility, which will have in the basement a karting system and have dotted around its competitive socializing, as well as other products from its catalogs. Selling to yourself, it's a showroom, and it's a great learning experience to be able to do that. And surprise, surprise, our friends at DOF Robotics, following their Turkish flotation, they've had to admit that they have 2 Turkish FEC projects that are underway, and they're actually looking towards finding a partner for a US facility based again on their own products being deployed into an entertainment facility.
Yeah, I mean, we see this actually. We see this in this direction and also in reverse. A lot of manufacturers will build their own facilities so that they can test their products. I mean, Lasertron has been doing this for years. They actually have Lasertron branded facilities, and so they are able to try out and pivot and test new things. You also then have people who start facilities and they're like, hey, I don't like the point of sale that's on the market, and so they go and build another point of sale. This is why we ended up with a thing like what used to be Activate that was sold to Roller, and then Center Edge and others that have been, and Illuvi even have been developed from park operations and then into their own standalone products. So yeah, it's not surprising. I think it is telling that Triotech decided to go build their own facility and realized, we don't necessarily have the right products that we would put into a modern FEC at this point. And so
Exactly.
I think it was a little bit of navel gazing on their end to say, wow, if we wouldn't put our stuff into our own facility, we need to really rethink our product mix.
Yeah, as one that's jumping up and down in Triotech's face, sort of pointing this out to them, for them to suddenly go, oh, wow, you were right. It's kind of, you bang your head against the wall for a couple of minutes and just take a deep breath. It will be fascinating how many of these companies, when they start to operate their own facilities, will understand why we are so adamant about the type of trends and products that they should be producing in the market. I always like to point to time zone. Going one way with its ability to understand what a point of sales platform would be needed and leading to embed, and pointing the other way where LAI Games can use their facilities there to test products. That ability is nothing to be sneezed at. And some companies miss out on direct hardware evaluation of their business directions and start talking in an echo chamber, which leads to them going down areas where they're making products that the industry doesn't need. This can only be good for the industry as long as these companies and the others that are looking at doing this learn from the lessons of the market. Moving on, and again, I've alluded to earlier about the changing of the guard regarding mixed reality and virtual reality. To be clear, VR hadn't disappeared from the IALPA show floor. How I'm describing it to clients and in my writing is that the VR machines that were there, bar the Chinese VR systems, VR products that were actually at the IALPA 2025 event, were not there for novelty value or claimed innovation value. They were there as products that had proven revenue generation. So less innovation and more application was the order of the game. The Chinese VR systems are another matter, and I'm not going to touch on that now. What's going forwards on the innovation is we were inundated with MR, mixed reality. That's where you're using a headset with cameras on the front, capturing the world around you, and then projecting that to you, as well as superimposing virtual reality components or synthetic components into your world. I played four of the MR systems that are at the show. We've already touched upon all stations. We've already touched upon our friends at Dream Parks, who were sitting next door to each other, which was pretty interesting. We had L3DX,
L3DFX, yeah.
FX, thank you, who is a company that specializes in making escape rooms and environments, and had partnered with another company to create a mixed reality experience. And my brain is escaping me on number 4, which will come to me in a couple.
Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe there was, because I didn't get a chance to do it because they were in a weird location, but you had Verse Immersive, who was in You had them in the Haunt, right? So they actually were in the Haunt pavilion.
But they're not MR, and I was going to come to that. Hopefully, in a couple of seconds, I remember who the other.
Okay, you would consider them AR exclusively.
They are AR,
Yes,
sadly, a lot of companies missed this and have kicked themselves and have been screaming for all of my photos of the experience. What Brandon's alluding to is, Versus has been in our sector for some time with their Microsoft HoloLens experience, and then with Microsoft pulling out of the HoloLens system, they were left floundering, needing a headset, and they have signed, an obvious relationship with Snap, and Snap Spectacles offers them the ability to do AR, which is pass-through, where you're actually seeing the world through lenses, and the virtual environment is, or the virtual elements are superimposed into your vision, rather than creating a synthetic world rendering. And they were running around, and they had about 3 or 4 of their experiences now put onto the Gen A dev kit versions of the Spectacle. It is a very slim Spectacle. This isn't AI glasses, smart glasses. These are real augmented reality glasses. And Spectacle have really worked hard on these. The field of view on these systems will change. They were a little tight on the versions we were using at the show. They're going to get a little bit bigger for the final production systems that they're going to have next year. But it was a serious transition. The Versus experiences are good and strong and compelling for what they are, and I think with the right hardware it goes forward. But as I corrected I see that as the one and only AR that was at the show floor. Everything else was mixed reality, going through the pass-through system. I remember what it was. The Tokyo Dome experience was the other one that I was trying to remember. And that was an interesting one there, because they're really mixing mixed reality with virtual reality. You sort of start off in a kind of mixed reality experience, and then you're dropped into a full virtual reality experience, as well as they were the other company at IALPA using the Apple Vision Pro as their fielded platform, though I think they don't field Apple Vision Pros as much at the Tokyo Dome facility as our friends at A Station. Moving on, and the rise of competitive socializing, we've touched upon that before. Some of us were lucky enough to go to the Conductor and 501 mixer that took place at Dave & Buster's, where we could actually touch and play with the Social Bay installation there. As I cynically said, the most popular and most populous, most used time for that setup at Dave & Buster's they've ever had, I'm sure, but it did show the draw of that. On the show floor, we had all of the companies with the mini golfs out, including some we didn't expect. Our friends at Putt Shack actually made an attendance at IALPA. We had all of the competitive socializing elements thrown to the walls, and new entrants such as what we've been talking about with Triotech. It can't be ignored. It can't be called another Kevin trend boondoggle. Competitive socializing, social entertainment is here, and it's not going anywhere.
100%. I think if there was really any significant trend to take away from the show floor, it is that social entertainment is here to stay for the next round of entertainment experiences. And there will be some experimentation. There will be some winners. There will be some losers. There will be people who come up with ideas like pickleball social bays that may or may not work. But there will be, no doubt, this social entertainment across the board is here.
The competitive socializing kinds of also bookends with the active entertainment and sportainment. It was interesting to see products like Home Run Dugout offering a fantastic competitive socializing environment, but using all of the tools of sportainment or active entertainment. We had Batfast at the show, Batbox. We had the golf simulators from HD Sports. We had all of the sportainment components thrown into the entertainment mix. And active entertainment really is married closely to the leisure entertainment business, from the trampoline parks to the climbing walls to the laser tag, can all be defined as active entertainment experiences. But there is that entertainment component, the gamification, that's strong. And if you get the gamification and the hospitality mix right, then you're in competitive socializing. So if you look at the nasty Venn diagram that I threatened to unleash upon our audience, the next sound off, where you can see all of the intervening components that we need to take into consideration for our sector, you will see that if you can create something like Big Hoops, which is that picture there of a automated and compelling gamified hoops experience using projection mapping and tracking and a good game engine, and then throw in hospitality, then you are looking at a competitive socializing experience. I'm not sure where overactive and active ends and competitive socializing and social entertainment end. You know, I know that it's difficult to try and drink a gin and tonic while playing on a trampoline. But at the same respect, it's interesting to watch people exert themselves as the audience while enjoying the hospitality of the venue. Again, if you're looking at competitive socializing as one of those strong trends that was defining itself at IALPA 2025, then you also need to accept that sportainment was the other facet of that coin. And then we go on to the ubiquity that is licensing. You know, the IALPA has embraced this with its own licensing components to the show. IALPA has also partnered with the licensing association to formulate closer ties, and it's hard to find a product on the show floor that didn't have some link to a license or a brand, an IP or a movie franchise, be it the lowliest pinball to the highest redemption. Some works, sometimes it's wrapping a gold brick with titanium. In other cases, it's covering up a turd. But either way, we are seeing licensing being used incredibly hard. One of the ones that I wanted to point out to is the G.I. Joe appearance on the show floor, which is one of those last minute, whoops, we need an IP to sell this product kind of approach. The Chinese game from Frame Store is a great shooting game, but it is very Chinesey, and so you know, changing this to be a G.I. Joe property is going to be interesting. That said, our friends at Sega had their ball tossing game with Simon as its brand. And, you know, the jury's out, as Adam eloquently said during our sort of round table or cool down after the IALPA recording, that maybe these IPs are not aimed at the right audience. Was it the word you keep on using? I don't think you know what it means. Yes, everybody knows what licensing means, but they may not be thinking that these are the right licenses. And it goes back to a phrase that I've been using recently of the old man syndrome, where the R&D team guys may understand the basics, but they're not understanding their audience. We in the location-based entertainment industry are renowned for not really having that closer contact with the people who pay our wages, the actual audience. I'm not sure that a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old is going to be that interested in Simon, the classic toy from the 80s, the same way that that same age demographic may not be that interested in G.I. Joe. Just because you can get your hands on an IP doesn't mean it's the right IP for your audience.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, and I really question the importance of licensing, right? I mean, I know you have that there, that you especially when the consumer is not going to connect with the IP anyway, but like they see a cool gun aimed at a screen with some stuff that they can go and sit down and play. Like, do I care, or do I even need a GI Joe IP on it, or could it be some generic brand that's made up and just allows great gameplay? Like, I think sometimes we have been in the recent years have been relying heavily on licensing and IP to drive traffic to that particular machine or game or even venue, instead of focusing on really good gameplay. That Simon game, frankly, is a giant piece of shit. I played it. It is nothing at all like the game. It was difficult to play. It was difficult to throw the balls through the gaps in the holes. So first of all, like, I'm not a bad throw. I'm not a great throw, but I probably got 50%.
But it was frustrating.
No matter, frustrating, right? And as somebody who played Simon as a kid and loved it and like played it obsessively, it had nothing to do with the actual game of Simon other than making the tones when you went through the holes. There was actually no memorization, or I thought maybe there was, and I was trying to like anticipate where the balls to go next based on the pattern. No, there was no pattern. So anyway, all that being said is, like, it's one thing to take an IP and make it relevant to the gameplay and make it relevant to the audience. It's another thing to just take a piece of IP and throw it in a game and you hope that helps people play it more, instead of focusing on the core gameplay element.
Why so many movies have sequels? Not that the sequel has to be good. It's just that you have the memory berries from the original. Questions will have to be asked about Simon internally, whether that was the right way to go. And I'm sure we're being honest here. I had problems with another licensed product at the show, the Ubisoft All Stars VR experience. I found it very frustrating that such a slam dunk opportunity was missed. I'll keep my powder dry about that, because I'm led to believe that my frustration and others' frustration has manifested its way up the chain of command, and maybe they're going to make some changes to that product. But I don't know what you can do to Simon, but I definitely know what you can do to All Stars to try and improve that. The other ubiquity on the show floor, of course, was claw machines aplenty. For the first time, some people got a chance to see the new generation claw machines and crane machines, and actually understand the difference between the traditional approach and the modern approach. We also got a chance to see some of the new generation prize merch that needs to support these machines. I'll point to Alan Wan's butt as that type of brand new merch.
To be clear, not Alan Wan's butt. Alan Wan's butts on things.
Butts on things.
Yeah, butts on things.
And first chance that people had to see a Kiddleton self-service machine. There was a lot of forced acceptance by some companies that they had to up their game regarding their claw machine offering, even to the point that Elot went through the process of having a private behind-the-scenes launch of a brand new approach to a machine that I'm sure 4 years ago they said they wouldn't needed to have made because they had crane machines at home. Well, that market's gone and this market's here, and it was evident that clawcades are here for the foreseeable future. And then finally, the last two aspects for me, it'd be nice to learn to type properly, but the growth of the escape and mission room side of our business was strong. If you haven't had a chance to look at the Creative Works detonation machine, this is a arcade escape product that fires my imagination of where it could be deployed and what it could be to the market. And if you haven't had a chance to see the AVS companies, CVA's companies, escape pods, as I like to call them, then you really do need to catch up on the new application of escape gaming and mission gaming that was seen across the show floor. we've always joked about this in the location-based entertainment attraction market, how the escape game industry is its own little universe, but it's not so little. There are, calculations that there are 50,000 escape rooms dotted across the globe, but that number comes from just an amalgamation of new openings and existing sites. It is an established and proven format, but it isn't part of the theme park or the attractions or the amusement industry. Well, these appearances during the show look like that divide is beginning to grow closer together.
There's no question, especially at the mission room level. I think the smaller form factor, shorter gameplay escape room concept is interesting, like the mini escape games, I guess maybe we'll call them.
Yes.
But the mission rooms for sure had a strong presence. Surprisingly, we didn't see vendors like Time Mission who have been on the show floor before, but there were certainly others that are focused on developing mission room concepts. You could make an argument that Triotech's Electrify is sort of like a quasi mission room experience, right? So I think they were definitely somebody who's making that shift, or at least recognizes the value there. So
X-Cube, as I always say.
Oh, X-Cube, right? Yep, exactly. X-Cube is another like time mission competitor for sure. You could argue Activate wasn't on the show floor, but an X-Cube, Activate, Time Mission, etc. Right? Those guys are all playing in the same sort of adventure room, mission room space. So 100% a trend, and fits interestingly in like that social entertainment element. That's like this blend of social entertainment and escape rooms to create something that's like shorter time based, more social, collaborative, and you could take a break from doing your mission rooms to have a drink and some food, and then go back to doing more mission rooms again, versus the hour-long escape experience.
I feel that the right themed escape room, let's stick with mission room, the right themed mission room could be popped into a competitive socializing and sit alongside the karaoke, sit alongside whatever the sportainment is that you have, and then suddenly my mixed use leisure entertainment facility concept has a lot stronger legs than just depending on some mixed reality attractions to keep the audience coming back for more. Interesting thing about X-Cube, they also kind of cross over into the licensing argument, because I was informed by the company at the show that they just signed a deal to have Traitors, the popular television series, now turned into a kind of whodunit experience that you can play within their enclosure system. Finally, I've already touched upon the big applications of LED screens, but we also had the smaller, more in your face, pardon the pun, applications. Many people got their chance to see Vex's Party Dash for the first time, and can now understand why a predominantly VR arena entertainment platform developer would pivot so hard into what I would call an immersive display entertainment product. We also had a fusion product by one exhibitor, which included the use of LED screens as well as CGI characters with motion capture, staff controlling, so that the day of the mascot could become endangered by the usage of more phygital environments. Rather than having someone dressed up as Mickey Mouse wandering around your facility, you could have screens placed in your facility where the mascot will appear and be live and interact. If that is suitable, again, the physical nature of the mascot compared to a digital Vactor, they bring different things to the table. But I just wanted to kind of end on this point of saying that the LED power of technology wasn't just on the big attractions, as we alluded to earlier, but also it had a part to play for the smaller attractions. Anyway, I bored you all long enough with our 100th episode. We need to get a sponsor from a sleep aid or a mattress company, I think, in the future.
It's a really good pillow. Yeah.
Yeah, a good pillow. Well, as long as it's one particular pillow manufacturer, but yeah, definitely a good pillow manufacturer. The interest from IALPA, I've received a lot of LinkedIn inquiries and stuff like that, wanting to know specific, was this product here or is this type of thing here? Please be assured that our IALPA coverage that will be appearing in the next couple of days will be extensive, as always, and it will go into detail. But if you have any questions or if you wanted to point us to a product that you think we may have missed, you have my LinkedIn and my email there, and please jump on board the coming Stinger reports, and let's hope that next year's coverage will be equally as extensive.
Absolutely. Love it. All right. Well, Kevin, congratulations on hitting 100 Sound Off episodes.
Congratulations to us, Brandon. It has been an honor to do this. I don't think I could have done this on my own. I definitely know I couldn't have done it on my own. Thank you for your hard efforts in putting this together and also in offering support to my lunacy.
I love it. It's been an honor as well and a pleasure, and I look forward to the next 100 with you.
If we survive.
We'll see you guys on the next one.